You're about to enter the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, New Stanton's one and only surreal dive bar, bringing you beauty and magic and terahertz tragic. I'm Maxwell Vegas, writer, poet, musician, and author of the soon-to-be-published novel New Stanton. Descend with me into the static buzz of late-night radio, where words and music swirl through neon dreams and drift like cigarette smoke out over dried-up prehistoric seas. Welcome back to the Atomic Voodoo Lounge, or maybe you've been lurking among the disembodied voices since forever. Well, you're tuned into my frequency with a twist of the old dial. Maxwell Vegas here, and tonight I'm going against nature and saying goodbye to summer. We'll have a smoky cocktail of the evening, several six-word noir stories, a poem by D.H. Lawrence, songs by Insect Surfers and the Riptide Rats, and a prose piece by yours truly called First Person in the Park. So take your place at the bar. We've been saving it for you. Order a drink and think of the hot summer memories that made us who we are. Sometimes at the end of summer, there's a hint of smoke in the air from time to time, especially when it gets cool outside. So tonight's cocktail of the evening is the smoked and spiced bee's knees, sometimes called the stinger's knees. It's for those who enjoy a more complex and robust flavor profile. This twist adds warmth and a touch of smoke, making it an excellent choice for cooler evenings or those looking forward to cooler evenings. The twist? Use a spiced barrel-aged gin and add a hint of smoky mezcal. Here's what you need: 1.5 ounces of some sort of barrel-aged gin, a 1/4 ounce of mezcal, 3/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice, and a 3/4 ounce of honey syrup. Combine all ingredients in a shaker with ice. Shake well until chilled, then strain into a chilled coupe or cocktail glass. As a final touch, garnish with a flamed orange peel to release its smoky, citrusy oils. And of course, enjoy. The human brain is always trying to recapture something that's no longer there, like that sense of adventure with which we started the summer. Here's a tune that might help jumpstart that story factory we call memory. East-West Highway by Insect Surfers, off of their Datura Moon LP 2017. Yes, indeed. Keep traveling that east-west highway of the mind with Insect Surfers. Check them out at insectsurfers.com. Tonight's six-word noir stories come from... Oh, what's a six-word noir story? Good question. Our six-word noir stories try to capture a mood, a feeling, a setting, an action, a character in 6 words, and usually with a tinge of noir or speculative or surreal elements. My inspiration for tonight's 6-word noir stories comes from my own piece that I'll be reading later, First Person in the Park, and a little bit from D.H. Lawrence's poem Snake, which we will also feature a bit later in the show. You lurk, a disembodied voice, listening. King in exile, crawling forth, uncrowned. A forked knight, his tongue flickered. Flitting images, alien, yet still yours. A withered hand, pouring forth velvet omniscience. Think you can do better? Well, maybe you can. That's why I'm sending out the Maxwell Vegas Challenge to all my Substack subscribers. Type up your best 6-word noir, speculative, surreal, noir, what have you, in 6 words, and send it in for your chance to maybe hear it read on a future episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge. So head to atomicvoodoolounge.com and subscribe. I'm going to make a bold statement here. I believe in fairy godmothers. You know why? I have one. Her name is Sister Colette Toller. Back in the day, she was a professor of English at Seton Hill College. It's now Seton Hill University. And she was my teacher. She looked like a fairy godmother, literally. And she behaved like one. She shared literature with me. She invited me to lunches. And she was a dear friend, always encouraging my creativity and my growth as both a person and a writer and a poet, and most importantly, as a lover of literature. The true power of literature is how it flows from one person to another, one lifetime to another, one generation to another, down and down. Sister Colette shared D.H. Lawrence's poem Snake with me when I was in my formative years as an undergraduate. And I've always loved the poem. And now I will share my reading of it with you. For Sister Colette Toller, thank you. Snake by D.H. Lawrence. A snake came to my water trough on a hot, hot day, and I in pajamas for the heat, to drink there. In the deep, strange-scented shade of the great dark carob tree, I came down the steps with my pitcher and must stand and wait, for there he was at the trough before me. He reached down from a fissure in the earth wall in the gloom and trailed his yellow-brown slackness soft-bellied down over the edge of the stone trough and rested his throat upon the stone bottom. and where the water had dripped from the tap in a small clearness, he sipped with his straight mouth, softly drank through his straight gums and into his slack, long body silently. Someone was before me at my water trough, and I, like a second comer, waiting. He lifted his head from his drinking as cattle do, and looked at me vaguely as drinking cattle do, and flickered his two-forked tongue from his lips, and mused a moment, and stooped and drank a little more, being earth-brown, earth-golden from the burning bowels of the earth on the day of Sicilian July, with Etna smoking. The voice of my education said to me, "He must be killed, for in Sicily the black snakes are innocent, the gold are venomous." And voices in me said, "If you were a man, you would take a stick and break him now and finish him off." But I must confess how I liked him. How glad I was he had come like a guest in quiet to drink at my water trough and depart peaceful, pacified, and thankless into the burning bowels of this earth. Was it cowardice that I dared not kill him? Was it perversity that I longed to talk to him? Was it humility to feel so honored? I felt so honored. And yet those voices, "If you were not afraid, you would kill him." And truly I was afraid. I was most afraid. But even so, honored still more that he should seek my hospitality from out the dark door of the secret earth. He drank enough and lifted his head dreamily, as one who has drunken, and flickered his tongue like a forked night on the air, so black, seeming to lick his lips, and looked around like a god, unseeing into the air, and slowly turned his head, and slowly, very slowly, as if thrice a dream, proceeded to draw his slow length curving round and climb again the broken bank of my wall face. And as he put his head into that dreadful hole, and as he slowly drew up, snake easing his shoulders, and entered farther, a sort of horror, a sort of protest against his withdrawing into that horrid black hole, deliberately going into that blackness and slowly drawing himself after, overcame me now his back was turned. I looked round, I put down my pitcher, I picked up a clumsy log and threw it at the water trough with a clatter. I think it did not hit him, but suddenly that part of him that was left behind convulsed in an undignified haste, writhed like lightning, and was gone into the black hole, the earth-lipped fissure in the wall front, at which, in the intense still noon, I stared with fascination. And immediately I regretted it. I thought, how paltry, how vulgar, what a mean act. I despised myself in the voices of my accursed human education, and I thought of the albatross, and I wished he would come back, my snake, for he seemed to me again like a king in exile, uncrowned in the underworld, now due to be crowned again. And so I missed my chance with one of the lords of life, and I have something to expiate, a pettiness. To stay in the mood of recalling the events of a hot summer, here are the Riptide Rats out of Sweden with their single, Dunes. Here's to riding off into those strange and wonderful sunsets across the hot and seemingly never-ending dunes. Kind of reminds me of the dried-up prehistoric sea that borders the town of Newstanton in my novel, Newstanton. Coming soon. Anyway, check out the Riptide Rats on Bandcamp and Apple Music and all over the internet. Check out the notes section on my Substack website at atomicvoodoolounge.com for all relevant links pertaining to content in the show. Tonight's featured story is a bit unconventional, a bit of an experiment in perception. It's inspired by a memory I have of a picnic by a lakeside. I call it first person in the park. First person in the park by Maxwell Vegas. An old lawn chair, gray charcoal cracked red underneath a pitted aluminum coffee pot. Across the lake, a field banks up a hillside. Mild wind sweeps it. Grass blades bending. A pattern of roiling light on darker green. The hill's crest, a sharp line against an ageless blue sky. I am the first person in the park, eyes walking over the scene, the folding chairs fraying nylon straps against my thighs. My grandmother, her hands tissue-thin skin. My grandfather, raising his cup to meet the pot. She pours a cup of coffee, the old tripod grill beneath, brown lake water, rippling the green hill upside down. My uncle casting a rod, the tip yielding to the water. Only moments before, he turned from his tackle box to surprise us, a maniac, fishing worm between his lips. I, the voice that conjures. I, the headless observer. I, who decades ago sat upon a lawn chair watching a hillside beside a lake, a family picnic, a tripod grill, smoldering coals, a cup of coffee, an old woman's wrinkled hand, a peaceful moment so innocuous it could have been blown up that grassy hill, over the ridge, and into the sky's bluest nothing. Behind the seam where blue and green meet, into omniscient darkness. Limited, a voice. My voice, speaking. That hill across the lake, the coffee's brown perking above a charcoal fire, my grandmother's hand on pot's handle, my grandfather's back to the lake, his nose a triangle of shadow, my uncle fishing, reeling in a snapping turtle, rod bent to the brown water, fellow picnickers gathering to see the struggle, the hillside and sky. This just might be the best day of my life. Nothing happens. My awareness a radar screen, blips, formations, riplets on brown water, registering a voice. Was mine ever the first? A whisper, wind over the ridge. I, the first person in the park, guessing at omniscience, invisible, limited to see what I perceive. Uncle pulling a turtle from the depths. Grandmother's translucent skin, blue veins bulging from the back of her hand. Lawn chair's worn nylon straps biting my legs. Glowing coals atop a tripod grill. Grandfather's thick lips pursing before a mug. Their thoughts impenetrable to my observation, whose voice, I wonder, whispers therein. A tableau, carven marble statues in a park beside a lake. The first without a head, looking outward toward a seam beyond which an unknowable mind cradles. molding the observer. But who is the watcher? The second person in the park? You watch the grandmother's hand and the wind velvet the grass, the crazy uncle mugging an earthworm in his mouth, the grandfather sipping coffee. Across your mind, flitting images not yours but belonging to you. You now the second person, lurking, you alone before this, listening to a disembodied voice, familiar, telling of a long ago picnic by a lake where a grass-green hill meets the robin shell sky. The second person becoming the first when lips read I, and the I who wrote slips beyond that hill, beyond the boundaries, out of bounds, to say he, she, and it. I in you, and you in me, and both of us in her hand, upon the coffee pot's black handle, pouring him a cup of coffee. She let the pot down when it was empty. They were laughing at the nutty uncle tangled in fishing line as the turtle went its last journey across the lake, given away to the gentle or rough hands of the third person plural. Was I the last person in the park to see the hill, the power of what is unseen, bending, the will of mine own unknowing, acknowledging that once I was there and you were too? They were we and us them, beside a tripod charcoal grill, a coffee pot, a withered hand pouring, a hillside cresting to blue, the velvet underside of omniscience, the farthest side hidden, obscured, immortal. I'd love to hear what you think about that one. Send me a message. Share your thoughts. Coming soon from Heavy Sixer Productions, New Stanton, a novel by Maxwell Vegas. Mr. Harold Dean, a shady alcoholic, just woke up with one hell of a hangover at the Starlight Inn, New Stanton's dingy motel. The only problem is, New Stanton doesn't exist. Join Mr. Dean on this postmodern night journey through buried memories, liminal spaces, and treachery as he searches for his sole means of escape, a blue 1964 Chevy Malibu. Will he be able to find his car before the evil Dr. Freytag does? Can Mr. Dean trust a host of bizarre characters to help him solve the mysteries of his own dysfunction and accept that New Stanton is exactly where he needs to be? The answer to these questions and many more lie scattered across New Stanton, a town that sits on the edge of a dried-up prehistoric sea, a town that exists inside and down. That brings us to the close of tonight's episode of the Atomic Voodoo Lounge podcast. Keep reinventing those ghosts of summers past, lingering there on the dunes of a dried-up prehistoric sea. I'm Maxwell Vegas, and thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more Atomic Voodoo Lounge stories, music, poetry, and who knows what else. Our current schedule is about one episode every other week, or twice a month for the time being. Those surprise episodes may show up from time to time. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe at atomicvoodoolounge.com. Did I mention it's free? And spread the good word. And if you're interested in contributing or being a sponsor, drop me a line and we can discuss the particulars. And don't forget, our 6-word noir challenge is open to Substack subscribers. So head on over to atomicvoodoolounge.com and subscribe. That's also a good place to send me any comments or questions you may have. Find out more about Maxwell Vegas and Heavy Sixer Productions at HeavySixerProductions.com or MaxwellVegas.com. And remember, Vegas is spelled V-A-G-U-S. Thanks to the Insect Surfers and the Riptide Rats for tonight's musical features, and thanks to Mad Gravity Studio for their song Shady, which we used under our 6-word noir stories. You can check them out at mgstudio.org. All words and music composed, read, programmed, and or performed by Maxwell Vegas, unless otherwise stated. All text, music, and performances, copyright Heavy Sixer Productions, LLC, 2025. All rights reserved. Some sound effects and music used under Creative Commons license. And remember, as always, no AI training. Please keep your AI bots away from those dried up prehistoric dunes. I'm Maxwell Vegas. Thank you for listening, and good night.